Hi everyone. Recently I got asked how could we replicate the functionality of Nintex live forms in SharePoint in Nintex Workflow Cloud and Office 365. And so what I mean by that, if you're not familiar with live forms for SharePoint, what that basically meant is you can collect data from the public at a cloud hosted form, and the data would come back into your SharePoint on-premise environment. So we can replicate that functionality by using Nintex Workflow Cloud and Office 365. So what I can do is first you have to make sure you've got a connection. So a connection is your authentication credentials to your Office 365, your SharePoint Online tenant. So I've got mine set up already. Then I'll go ahead and create a workflow. So once you've got your connection done, you put your start event as a form, design your form, and make sure you've actually got a list ready to go. So in my tenant, I've got my list, which is my live forms replacement with the columns of data I want to collect. So then I come back to my form and I want something similar. It's going to say, what have we got? A couple of fields here, first name, last name, and email. Just keeping it really simple for the moment. So we'll say first name, last name, and email. So that's it. So you really just set up your form, press apply changes. The data you collect is in the form variables in the Explorer here. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you've put this to anyone with the form URL. So basically that means it's a public anonymous form. So once you've got that enabled, the next thing you want to do is SharePoint Online, I think it is. Should see a bunch of things you can do with SharePoint Online. So we want to create an item, so we'll drag that on. And then you want to say, where are you going to connect to? So you're going to use your connection that we created before. So universal forms, and I will put in the URL of my tenant, which is across here. So you only need the team site or the site, not the tenant. So this is the tenant. This is the site that I need. So I'll copy that and I'll come back to here and I'll paste it in here. Then you click on retrieve lists. Now that goes away to your tenant and finds what lists you've got. And I have the drop down and we have live forms replacement. So that's where I'm going to put my data into. Next, it's got titles. So that's the default column that almost all SharePoint lists have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a couple of variables. So I'm going to say form variables, and I'm going to put first name and a space and last name. But then I also want to put the pieces of data into individual columns that we have before. So all of the columns we had here are represented in Nintex Workflow Cloud. So we'll add those, and then we can click on the insert and put email in there, first name in there, and last name in there. All right, so our workflow is pretty much done. Now you might have something more complex. You might have something around approvals or approval might be a good example. So you might want to, before you put data into SharePoint, you might want someone to vet the information before you actually collect it. So you might do some approvals or something else with the data, but for this example, we'll keep it pretty simple. So we press publish. We'll call this live forms replacement and press publish. Okay, so once it opens up, you have the option with the public anonymous forms, you have the ability to embed it in another website or just use the full URL. So I'm going to click on this button and open up the full form. I'm going to switch back. So there's no data, so I'll just press refresh. There's no data in my list right now. If I come back to here, I'm filling out my form like I'm a public anonymous person. My name, my email address, press submit. And what's happening behind the scenes, so once that submits, we'll go back to Nintex Workflow Cloud. We'll have a look at our instance details. That's hard to say. So that's going through. We'll go close and we'll close the workflow. And you come to instances and you can see where the workflows are running. So that's still submitting. Something's going on in my environment. There we go. So that's completed. So we come back to here, and if I refresh, hopefully we'll see that workflow running to put that Office 365 detail in. So here we go. So we can see the live forms replacement has been submitted at 11:30 9 a.m. So if I click on that, I can actually see the instant start data. So I can see the form that's been submitted. I can see a table of all the data or the actual code itself as well. If you wanted to have a look at all that, you can then see that the create item in Office 365 has been completed and we're all done. So that means if I switch back to Office 365, and there we have it. So now our data has been collected back into Office 365. So if you are using Office 365 and you do want to collect data from the public or put something on your public facing website, but you still want to store the data in Office 365, this would probably be the easiest, best way of doing it. So I hope you find that useful. Certainly let me know in the comments. Cheers.